welcome to another weekend recap for May 19th, 2025. Welcome to the Sports Guyz, and we're really happy to have you this week. There was so much going on sports-wise this past weekend, you literally can't keep up with it. How you doing, Robbie?
I'm doing great. Having a awesome, start to the week. I guess we had a great weekend, hanging out with the family. We did all kinds of fun stuff. Boys crushed it in baseball, which was really good. Brock
Nice.
pitched, and just first weekend at the pool for the year. So
Fantastic.
just had a really good weekend. Yeah, so things are
Really
good.
fun to have them on last episode when we talked about baseball, and we had the boys on at the very end. We had a little interview with them about their love of baseball and love of the sport, and super cool to have them on the podcast. So
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thoughts about this weekend? I mean, we had all the NBA series all wrap up. We had all the hockey series all wrap up. We had the lacrosse tournaments on the men's and women's side all go down to the Final Four. You had, essentially the baseball playoffs are now kicking off in all the tournament, in all the conference tournaments, and baseball's in full swing. Any thoughts about
PGA Championship and just so much sports. May is definitely the most underrated month of the year for sports. It's so good.
It's true.
There was just exciting game sevens all over the place, and just really good high level basketball and hockey. Very exciting things. I mean, even the blowouts were, competitive all the way until empty net goals and stuff like that. So just really good sports on, just super exciting competitive sports.
And there's more off-season stuff in the NFL. Of course, you have Brock Purdy's huge contract, $275 million over 5 years. He gets $53 million per. He gets 180 guaranteed. And if you look at that compared to the other quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a team-friendly deal.
It's decent, yeah.
He's going to be like eighth or ninth,
It's not as bad as I thought they were going to have to do. I think he understood the wisdom in dialing it back just a little bit, kind of like Josh Allen did. Who else did that? A few other quarterbacks have, Mahomes.
Mahomes definitely.
A few of them have taken slightly less than they could have gotten, even though they got outrageous amounts, so that it doesn't hurt their team as much.
So do you think the 49ers are going to be able to get through this little rough patch and reconstruct? They've lost some players. They had to let Debo go. Now they've given the big money to Purdy, so they've committed to him for at least the next 5 years. Are they going to be able to? And they're a great organization. They have great front office, really good coach, really good staff. But are they going to be able to maintain the level that they've been used to the last couple of years, or are they going to take a little step back?
Well, I think what you saw with them the last 2 years was 2 years ago, they were performing at a really high level, but they had just a couple of injuries that really hurt them. And then last year, they had the wheels come off the injuries. So I think what you had to do is completely rebuild the team, because they were all just old veterans that were extremely talented at one point in their career, and they just slightly passed it in a number of areas. So I think when you go young, as long as you have a smattering of veterans in there, you can really improve. You can really get better. Young players tend to get less injured, not always, but they tend to have fewer nagging injuries, fewer soft tissue injuries, things like that. They haven't put the mileage on their legs and bodies. But yeah, I think they can. It's going to come down to whether they knock it out of the park in their drafting over the next 2 to 3 years, as they let some of the green laws go and the Warner.
They still have they're in a very tough division. I think the Rams are clearly the best team there. The Seattle Seahawks are pretty good. Arizona's a tough out. So they're in a tough division. They're in a really tough conference with a lot of good quarterbacks. And, I see them in the 9-8, 10-7 range. They're still going to be good. They're going to be terrible. They've got Kittle. They can run the ball.
I anticipate this year will be not as bad in the injury bug department. Last year was a complete disaster. But they're still going to need to rebuild their offensive line in spots. They're still going to need to sprinkle in some players as they let the veterans go. Are they going to have Christian McCaffrey 3 years from now? I really doubt it. The level of injury he's taken on now is he worth it anymore? I'm not sure.
He's under contract right now. He's coming off a year he didn't run much, so that's going to be kind of good for him. I think he usually does well in that second year. They're going to go, I think, 10-7. That's what I've got.
Yeah, very possible.
They'll be right on the edge of the playoffs.
Tremendous injuries again, and then it's just too much.
In terms of the basketball playoffs, of course, the game everybody was waiting for, OKC and Denver Nuggets. It was everything that was advertised the whole series. I thought it would go 7. It did. The Nuggets showed their championship medal, but what I think happened in Game 7, and you saw it pretty evidently, was they just wore down.
Yeah.
They're a little older. Jokic didn't have nearly as much help as OKC has. They're just deeper. OKC is more athletic, and they just wore them down. I mean, they looked absolutely exhausted at halftime of the game started. And OKC looked like they were just getting started.
They were more reliant on their starters, and OKC was sort of looked at their whole team as in play. Everyone's going to play. And I think they wore down less. They were younger, and they just kind of, like you said, wore them out.
And then in terms of the Florida Panthers, I mean, does anybody really want to play them right now? They go down 0-2 to the number 1 seed, Maple Leafs. And then Bobrovsky looks like the best goaltender in hockey again. And it almost shuts them out 3 games in a row. And it's just
he's intimidating.
They go into that game, they win it 6-1 going away, and it feels like they're right into the position they were in last year. And of course, I want the Hurricanes to win, but I'm not looking forward to that series.
No, they're gonna have to earn it. I mean, I think that Canes can do it, but they're gonna need that superior goaltending and defense together to come through. If not, it's gonna be a long series.
Both defenses are really fantastic. So I'm looking at low-scoring games for the most part, just like the Capital series. I think it'll be 2-1, 3-2. Really low scoring. Goals are hard to come by. That kind of thing. Then on the lacrosse side, of course, you had a couple of teams get knocked off that are kind of blue bloods. You had Notre Dame go down, which was really surprising. You had Syracuse take out Princeton. A lot of great players on that field in that particular game. That was probably the best lacrosse game I've seen in 5 years. It was a fantastic game, 19-18. Richmond gave everything they could to win that game against Cornell. They just couldn't quite get it done. They lose 13-12. So that was a really solid game. And then Maryland goes back for the 6th year in a row to the Final Four. You talk about consistent.
Yeah, Maryland was my call. There was a lot of good lacrosse going on. I'm not too surprised that Notre Dame kind of faltered. You can only stay at the top for so long before they, wipe you off. You got to beat the best to be the best, but they're coming for you every year. So you graduate some of your stars, and sometimes it's hard to replace them. There's a lot of teams out there that face that. And proud of Richmond. Good job. They had a fantastic season.
They really did. Really proud of them.
Penn State, good.
What's crazy is Richmond had a lead going into the 4th quarter of that game, and Cornell just kind of turned it on and just found a way to get it done. But Richmond shouldn't hang their head at all. They just had a great year and really surprised everybody. And they announced themselves, I think. Richmond's program is here to stay. No.
Cool. Well, lots of good sports, that's for sure.
And then we'll talk about this big club FIFA Championship that's coming up here in the United States here in 3 weeks. We'll talk some about that. Of course, they've formed the whole thing around Lionel Messi and the Inter Miami team. And there's clubs coming from all over the world for this FIFA Championship. They're trying to style it after the World Cup, but do it in the alternate 2 years. So you've got the international teams every 4 years, and you'll have the club teams every 4 years. So it's a really cool experiment. We'll see how it does, but it's going to be really fun to watch the, Inter Miami play against Inter Milan or against, PSG or all the big clubs from around the world are coming to compete for the Club World Cup. So what do you think of that? You think it's a good idea for FIFA?
Oh, for sure. They want the U.S. to be in the market. They need soccer to take off here so that we'll produce more soccer, so that we're more interested instead of just tuning in just at the World Cup time. because
You
that's
know why
kind of
it's a
what the
brilliant
U.S. does for the most part.
why it's a brilliant idea is it's the biggest sport in the world, and you're making people wait 4 years for the World Cup.
Yeah,
Now you
yeah.
only have to wait 2 years and you get a World Cup. And
You're
it just
not
alters,
wildly in love with the sport if you have to wait 4 years for it.
right? There's no
I
doubt
mean,
about it.
huge soccer fans around the world watch every match of their team. They watch all kinds of stuff, all world championships, and
And
um,
these are the biggest clubs in the world that are coming. This is Man United. This is Man City.
yeah.
This is, Barcelona's coming. It's just every big club you can think of is coming.
Mhm.
Chelsea's coming. So it's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, I'm actually excited about it. These are all the big clubs you think about if you're a real big soccer fan. So let's go ahead and take a look at the material. All right, so this is our weekend recap, May 19th, 2025. This is our Sports Galore episode. Like Rob and I were just saying, you're almost choking on the amount of sports all day long, especially on the weekends. And
This is
I
awesome.
was trying to do lots of other things, but I had to keep watching the TV to see what was going on in the PGA, what was going on in the lacrosse game. Was Richmond going to pull it off? Then you watch the OKC Thunder and Nuggets play, and then you watch the Celtics play the Knicks, and it's just crazy all the stuff going on. So the first one here is this Club World Cup we just talked about. They're featuring Messi, but there's going to be 32 clubs total in this one. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think Inter Miami has a chance? I mean, they do have the best player in the world, but in
They're
reality, if you look
slipping
at
lately. They have. I don't know. I don't think they're looking as good.
those European clubs, I just don't see how an American MLS team can compete. I just don't think so.
No.
You're talking those teams are so stacked out of the
We
Premier
need a
League.
we need a special team to come together and to do it, but I'm not sure that Miami team is
I am
capable.
very curious how they're going to look against the big clubs. I am very curious about that. I want to see if they can compete. So it's going to be fun to watch. This starts here in about 3 weeks. So be looking for that, guys. If you're a soccer fan, this is going to be a fantastic couple of weeks. So great games here in the United States. So I'm really looking forward to that. We will definitely be reporting on it as the results come in.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got our Stanley Cup playoffs. This was the beginning of the playoffs. You can see all the teams that were in, and now we're down to the final four. And are they the four, Robbie, you predicted, or they're pretty close?
I think so. I think so.
So I had
Dallas, Carolina,
So I
Florida.
had Dallas. I had Dallas and the Oilers coming out of the West, and they're both going. So I got those two right. I was 2 for 2 in the West. In the East, I had Capitals and Maple Leafs. So I was wrong on both. So you got Florida and the
I was
Hurricanes.
thinking Winnipeg Jets had a shot.
Yeah, Stars are just too good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when I saw that they lined up against the Stars, yeah.
yeah. So you're looking at a tournament that I got 2 out of 4, and I think you got 3 out of 4 at least.
I think I got 3 out of 4, yeah.
So it's going along the pattern. I mean, if of the two teams that I got wrong, the other two teams I would have picked would be Florida and Carolina. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that far off, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's been an incredibly exciting playoffs. I've loved every single game.
Oh,
They've
yeah,
been
very
really,
good.
really great. There's just nothing like NHL playoffs. It's fantastic. On the NBA side, these were the original teams you see here. Now you're down to 4. You've got Thunder and the Timberwolves. Those are the two teams I picked. I really felt like they were the two best teams all year on the West side, even though the Wolves were ranked number 7 in that league. But I really felt like their athleticism, their length, and everything else. So those two teams coming out of the West, I picked those two. And then in the East, I picked the Cavaliers and the Celtics. Neither one made it. You got the Pacers and the Knicks. I'm not sure anybody would have picked those two, but pretty
No,
surprising
especially
East.
not the Knicks.
Although the Pacers did make the finals last year.
Yeah.
So any thoughts about these final 4?
The West is better for sure. The Knicks are scrappy, so are the Pacers. So it's kind of it should be a physical
Yeah,
finals, no matter
I
who's
think
in.
so too. I think so too. I do think the two West teams are the two best teams. But you're right. Pacers are not really a team you want to play right now. They're really
Yeah,
scrappy. They're really deep. They just bring in waves and waves of people. They play solid
they're
defense,
well coached. Yeah,
well coached. They rebound well. everyone can score. They'll have like
Mhm.
6 or 7 guys in double figures. So
Yeah.
I don't know. They might give the Western team a pretty good run.
I
We
think they
shall
get a
see.
little bit overlooked. I think they're better
Possibly.
than people think.
Possibly. So our next thing here is Omaha this year. This is the College World Series. They're representing their 75th anniversary in Omaha, Nebraska, which is really cool. What a great tradition that they've been able to keep up all these years. They haven't been tempted to take it somewhere else, take it to New York or something like that. They just leave it in Omaha, and it's just a really special tradition. So any thoughts about the 75th?
I mean, college baseball is about as good as it gets. It's fantastic. I love the atmosphere. It's so cool that it's in Middle America. Um, I like that it's in the same place every year.
Me too.
It's really cool.
Because everyone
And
says we want to get to Omaha. So it's like a destination.
it's a
It's like
destination. Yeah.
it's your goal. Yeah.
Just getting there is a huge accomplishment.
And then once you get there, anything can happen.
All right.
So, yeah, I'm really excited that they've been able to make it 75 years and really glad they're celebrating it this year. So another cool thing is the lacrosse championships. We're going to get into that. We'll look at both brackets, men's and women's. There have definitely been some surprises that have come in and some big teams that got knocked out. So we'll go into that. Then we've got the PGA Championship we're going to talk about. That happened here in Charlotte, North Carolina at Quail Hollow Club, which is a really fantastic golf club. Scottie Scheffler comes out with his third major. So we already knew that he was the number one golfer, but he's really starting to come into his own now. He's almost got the career Grand Slam now. He's getting really close to that, and I think he'll get it.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah, what a great tournament that was. And what was interesting is he had been tied up in the first 9 of that 4th round and wasn't quite sure he was going to be able to pull it off. And then he just wins it going away. It was really pretty impressive what happened the second 9. He had 3 birdies coming in, and a really cool way to win it. And the final one here is the salute to service from the NFL. They're actually celebrating this weekend coming up, Memorial Day, and they're doing a whole salute to service campaign, which I think is really cool. So we on the Sports Guys wanted to call it out as well, the salute to service from the NFL, and to all of those who served, happy Memorial Day. Really proud of you guys and your service. All right, well, let's look at the playoffs. It's come down to 4. You got Thunder, Timberwolves, Pacers, and Knicks. And let's talk about what our predictions are in these series. And then why don't you rank your 4 teams? Give me your best team all the way down to your 4th best team out of these 4.
Yeah, I think it's OKC, Minnesota, Indiana, and New York.
That's what I think too. That's how I'd
Yep.
rank them. So who do you think are going to win these series?
Probably OKC and the Pacers.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I do like the Thunder series to go to 7 again. I really think the Timberwolves are a really good team.
They are very
And
good.
they're underrated, and they can really hurt you, especially in
Yeah.
Minnesota. I don't think this is a blowout at all. I
No
think this is
doubt.
going to go 7, and I think the Thunder get that geeked up crowd again in Game 7 back in OKC, and I think they take care of business. They're going to do the same thing they did to the Nuggets. That's my prediction there. Pacers, Knicks. I think the Knicks maybe get 2 at home. I think I like that to be a 4-2 Pacers win in that series. Knicks are scrappy. They're not just going to roll over. And they can steal 1 or 2 on you, especially on nights that they get some defense. So any other thoughts on these 2 series?
The Knicks have some nice players. They definitely have put together a pretty good roster.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never guessed they'd go this far, but the fact that they're better is not surprising. Pacers are well coached. They have a tremendous team. They might be the best overall team instead of collection of talent.
And it's interesting you say that because everyone just talks about the 4 stars in these series, right? You got Gilgeous-Alexander, who's likely going to win the MVP. You got Ant for the Timberwolves, right? You've got Halliburton, who's an up-and-coming star for the Pacers. There's no question he's in the top 5 or 6 players in the league. And you got Brunson, who's a fantastic player. So, but everyone talks about those. But what they don't talk about enough, I don't think, is the supporting cast. And to me, the reason we ranked the way they did is because the Thunder and Timberwolves are really deep, and I think the Pacers are really deep. I mean, they bring a lot of
Yeah.
guys off their bench, and I don't think the Knicks have that kind of depth.
Mm-mm.
So around Brunson, although they do have some nice players. So any thoughts about the depth and why these teams have made it all this way?
Uh, I think the depth of all these teams except the Knicks is definitely one of their team strengths, and therefore they've been able to overcome a lot of the fatigue that sets in when you're in playoffs. And I think that the Knicks just caught a little lightning in a bottle and have overachieved slightly, but they're a very good team. Nobody wants to play them, so that kind of tells you a lot about where they are.
I mean, an example of the depth I'm talking about, like, you have one of the best players in history, Steph Curry, go out for the Warriors, and they essentially just flamed out of that series, even though they
Yeah,
were sitting 1-1 at that point. And then the Celtics, of course, lose Jason Tatum, and just were not the same team without Tatum. So, um, I do wonder about some of those teams that don't have the depth when they lose their star. It's kind of over. They just can't compete.
yeah. It's funny in football. You have so many guys on the team that one injury should not cripple your team. But in basketball, when you have a starting five that your team is very reliant on, you lose one of those five people, it can oftentimes really change your team dynamic.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
true.
when you add a nice piece, it really improves you quickly, and when you lose one, it devalues you quickly.
That's true.
So
I think the Thunder Timberwolves series can be really fantastic. This is going to be really high level basketball, and
yeah,
Pacers Knicks, I think it's going to be good too. Looking forward to it. It's going to be really exciting to see as this kicks off.
hmm
So you got NBA and NHL series are both kicking off tomorrow, so it's really exciting.
yeah, it's gonna be great.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. Let's look at the hockey bracket. You've got the Stars and the Oilers. I predicted both of those coming out of the West. The Jets, although they were the number one seed, just didn't have enough for Rantanen and those guys. Their goalie's playing really well.
Yeah,
And then the Panthers just absolutely butt whooped the Maple Leafs in Toronto, which was really surprising. But they just played like the champs, and they're coming in to play a really good Hurricanes team. Is playing really great defense. I don't know what's going to happen in that series. I'm really kind of struggling to pick both of these series, to be quite honest with you. What do you think about these two?
well, Hurricanes Panthers is gonna be epic. I think the Stars Oilers is going to be too. I can't really remember a time when all four teams really belonged to be there.
Don't you feel like all four of these teams could hold the cup up at the end of this? And they
Yeah,
could.
I really do. I
Yeah,
mean, the Oilers, are you kidding? They've
I
got
know.
McDavid and so many players. The Stars have the best player in hockey right now, Rantanen.
Mm-hmm.
Canes have just blew through Washington.
Canes have a really solid team this
They have a
year,
very
and the
solid team of
Panthers
young
have the
and veteran.
best. They have the best goaltender in hockey, so that gives them a chance.
Yeah, Panthers have the
Um,
best goaltender.
I'm
Canes
really
goaltending has been
struggling.
solid, and they have great defensemen who score, which is a nice formula for adding extra guys up front,
Mm-hmm.
especially on power plays. So
Would it shock you if we got a return of two teams from last year, the Oilers against the Panthers? Would that shock you?
not really.
No.
Wouldn't shock me the other way either.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Star
shock me if you Stars Hurricanes.
Stars Hurricanes would not surprise me even in the slightest.
Agreed. I have a feeling, I don't know why, that the Oilers are actually going to win this series. I want the Stars to win it. I'm actually really rooting for Rantanen, and I think he deserves the MVP, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think the Oilers are going to win a really long 6 or 7 game series. I don't know why. I think it's just they have such quality up top. Two of the best three players in hockey.
I want to see the Hurricanes against the Stars in the finals. I think that would be so cool. All
I
these new names in there, a lot of interesting storylines.
I'm going on record. The Hurricanes are going to win Game 7 against the Panthers. This series is going 7, and they're going to win it. I just have
We'll
a feeling
see.
the Hurricanes are on kind of a team of destiny this year. So I'm going to go
It's going to
Hurricanes
come down to
Oilers.
goaltending.
I'm going to
Goaltending.
go Hurricanes Oilers. That's my final. What about you?
Hurricane Stars. That's the one I
Stars.
want to
Okay.
see. That's one I'm hoping
All right.
we
Let's
can
see.
manifest into happening.
I want the Stars to win, like I said before. I'm just picking the Oilers, but I want the Stars to win. So we shall see. Let's look at some NFL news. We have some people saying that this was the worst contract signed of all time with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. He gets a $265 million extension over 5 years. It was a 53 million per. He gets 180 million guaranteed. This is the guy who is the Mr. Irrelevant, but has earned this contract, in my opinion. If you look at him, he's going to end up being ranked ninth on the quarterback salary list. So he took a little bit of a hometown discount. So what are your thoughts about this contract? Is it really the worst contract of all time? I think
No
it's a
way.
little hyperbole.
Even if you think it's a little overpaid, which most people would probably say is slightly overpaid, he's not paid all the way to where Dak is, where, I'd rather have Purdy than Dak. So, no, the worst contract of all time was Deshaun Watson. I mean,
That
that's
was
not
number
even
one.
that's not even close.
And I think Dak Prescott was number two. I mean,
Yeah, this
60
one's
million a
not
year.
even really in the conversation, to be honest.
60 million a year for a guy who's 1-5 in the playoffs. I don't know. I just thought that was
And
number
he's
two.
had tons of talent.
That's right.
He's been surrounded
So
by tons of talent.
I disagree with this. I think that this was a pretty good deal for both. I think
Yeah, I
Purdy's
agree.
locked up for 5 years. The 49ers have a decent team. They've got good coaching. They've got a good front office. And to me, this is what you're going to pay. I'm sorry. He's going into his 5th year. You need to extend him. This is the
Yeah.
market. So
And they
drop us
paid
a
him at
comment.
the lower end of the market.
Drop us a comment, guys. What you guys think? Was this a good deal? Was it too much? Was this the worst contract of all time? Was this just the market?
No,
Drop us a
that's
comment.
cool.
Let us know what you think. All right. So next one here is we have Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens. They reached agreement to a 2-year, $30 million extension, so $15 million per, with $25 million fully guaranteed for the next 2 seasons, according to Adam Schefter. I feel the same way about this contract. I mean, this is a guy who's playing at a very high level. He's one of the probably 3 or 4 best running backs in football. He's incredibly important to the Ravens to get to where they want to be. They're trying to go all in their window right now. He wants a ring. He's taking a little bit of a cap-friendly deal. So do you think this is a good deal for both?
Yeah, I think he could have gotten more money if he fought hard. I think he wanted to help his team and have enough money to still be very competitive. He still got money in the tank and gas in the tank. He said this might not be my last contract. We'll see, kind of thing. So he
But don't
might
you think
be
it's
able.
smart for him to stay in Baltimore? They're essentially a
Yeah,
contender.
they're close.
And
Yeah,
and I mean, 15 million a year is not exactly taking a huge pay cut, but it is a little bit cap
well,
friendly.
it's
He
cap friendly.
gets to play with Lamar, and I don't know. I thought this was a pretty good deal for both.
Yeah, pretty good.
I don't think it's outrageous.
Nope. No,
So next one here, Patrick Mahomes in his 5 Super Bowls has 7 interceptions. Joe Montana in 4 has 0. I thought that was a really interesting stat, and I wanted to ask you if you thought it was just because it was a different era, they just didn't sling it as much, or is it because we've always looked at Mahomes kind of like a Brett Favre? He's a gunslinger. He's a little bit wild at times, but you get the upside from that. What is the reason for this? These stats are looking
all
way
the
out
things
of.
you mentioned. The era is different. They're throwing the ball more. I think Montana's teams had a lot more talent on them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those Niner teams were loaded.
Yeah.
All pros and all world at very many positions. Offensive lines were great. Defensive lines were
He's
great.
really, but Mahomes,
Linebackers,
if you're
wide
really
receivers,
honest,
tight
though,
ends.
I completely agree. He had those really stacked teams that were unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you're really honest about looking at Mahomes' record, I mean, he's starting to really stack up the interceptions now.
Yeah, but I don't think he has that much talent around him.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, he hasn't over the years.
Yeah. There's still some of those picks that were inexplicable. Didn't matter what kind of talent he has. It just kind of
No,
he's a
I'm not
gunslinger.
going to excuse them all. I'm just saying that if you can't really compare apples to apples here.
That's right. Very true. Well, I just thought that was a really interesting stat. So this is interesting. The RB2 ranks, they rated the best running back twos in the NFL. They placed David Montgomery number one in that group of RB2s. And they have Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks up there. They've got Giddens for the Colts. They've got Spears, Jordan Mason. What do you think of this list? Are they pretty close here in terms of the guys who are the number two running backs, but really solid contributors?
Yeah, I think that they got it right. I mean, the production that these guys are having is pretty awesome. I don't know about if I'd put Blake Corum up there, but he might be
Yeah,
in the
like
future.
Rashad White for the Bucks is a pretty good back. He's
Yeah.
really solid. And then the Panthers
Rico
picked up the
Dowdle
guy.
is now with the Panthers. He
He
was
just
with the
he
Cowboys.
just signed with the Panthers recently, and that was a pretty good pickup because you got him
He's a good
behind
backer.
Chuba Hubbard. So Chuba's a really good
Yeah,
back, and I got
and
Dowdle.
the guy that they drafted this last year is out for the season.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Stevenson's a solid contributor. I really like him. Najee Harris starting again in San Diego, in Los
Mhm.
Angeles. Um, Austin Eckler for Washington. I don't know. This is a really interesting list. It gives you that kind of feeling about who the better backs are in the depth department.
Mhm.
And these RB2s are going to be real big contributors for the teams this year. Super Bowl wins by highest paid QBs. This is really interesting. Your top 10 highest paid QBs of all time, 0 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
What do you think of that? I mean, what's your theory here?
No, it's not an accident.
Do you notice
You
Mahomes is not on the list?
you overpay for quarterback, and you end up thinning out the rest of your roster.
That's right. You see that Purdy's sliding into the 7 spot,
Yeah,
and he's got all these guys ahead of him, none of whom have a Super Bowl at this point, and most of them probably never will have a Super Bowl.
right.
So, yeah, I think paying these guys big money, you have to do it in the current market, but it's not a formula for winning the Super Bowl. It's just not. They really needed to get Purdy to win it in those first 4 years when he was making essentially zilch.
Right. When you're on rookie contract, that's when you take your shot.
Right. Now you got
That's why you build your
Lamar,
whole team before you get your quarterback.
and Herbert and Goff and all these guys now making the big bucks. Tua.
You have to do the dirty work of getting your lines all set, your linebacking core in place, stars at every level. You have to get your star wide receivers, your running back tandem in place,
But
a
see, the
good tight,
49ers did
solid
that.
tight end, and then you get your quarterback.
The 49ers did that. They went to 3 straight NFC championship games and 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and lost both Super Bowls. So they
Yeah,
did it the right way.
we were
If you really
close.
are honest about it, they built it the right way. They got him last. The problem was they lost in the Super Bowl. so
Yeah.
so this was interesting. This new film that's coming out, it's a biopic about John Madden. And you have Christian Bale playing Al Davis, which is kind
Mhm.
of funny.
And Nicolas Cage playing
And
John
Nicolas
Madden.
Cage is playing John Madden. What do you think about that? Do you think he looks a little bit like him? What do you think about Christian Bale as Al
I think
Davis?
Christian Bale looks like Al Davis.
He kind of does, right?
Yeah.
They both have their Super Bowl rings on.
Yeah.
Are you kind of interested in this one? Do you want to watch this?
Uh, I don't know, maybe.
I'm a huge fan of Madden, so
Yeah. I
I
love
think
Matt.
I'll
I'm
probably.
afraid that Nicolas Cage is gonna make him too weird.
I'm worried about that, but it's almost like I can't look away. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
watch some of it just to
I'll check
see.
it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I'll
check
check
it
it
out.
out.
It's gonna be a pretty cool one. I'm excited about it. Looking at some other news here, this was interesting. Do you think this is a factor? The Chargers are going to be the most traveled team this season. They're going to have 37,000 miles racked up. Rams, Seattle, all the West Coast teams essentially are all the top traveling teams. Jacksonville, 49ers, Atlanta, Indianapolis, the Miami Dolphins. So all these teams are going to be doing a lot of travel. Whereas you look down at like Cincinnati, under 10,000 miles. So all their games are in their region. So is this a factor? I kind of think it
Yeah,
is,
I
right?
think
You're
so.
living out of a hotel. You're always on a plane,
Yeah, I
tired
don't
all the
know.
time,
I'm not sure. They're professionals.
going to international games. They're professionals, I know, but I think it's slightly a factor. I mean, some of these Western teams, when they fly east, they don't play very well, right? They end up kind of laying eggs sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching this really carefully to see when you look at this chart if this has an impact on some of these teams.
I do think that modern coaches have sort of softened on trying to make sure their players are a little coddled and sort of making sure they're not arriving just for game time and stuff, that they oftentimes will even come in the day before or whatever.
That just amazes me that Detroit, Baltimore, and Buffalo and Cincinnati can have that low travel, essentially barely traveling at all, and
Yeah.
then all these Western teams are going to be hopping on a plane every week. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll be watching that carefully to see what happens. The top 15 most iconic college football helmets of all time: Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, LSU, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Florida State, Georgia. It's all the biggest brands essentially in college football. So any comments on this? Any surprises here?
Not really.
These are the big brands in college football. If you looked at basketball, of course, UNC
Yeah.
would be up top, right? Duke.
Right.
But I mean, these are the big marquee names. And you can see these are the guys who have all the money too, by the way.
Yeah. All the NIL.
Yeah. No, these are the really iconic. And you have to think helmets in football is really important. It's basically a huge part of your brand. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the helmet is kind of the first thing people see when they turn on the TV. So looking at this, apparently, according to sources, Dylan Gabriel was the number 2 quarterback on the board for the Browns after Cam Ward. They had Cam Ward slightly above him. And so the fact that they were able to get him in the third round, he was one of the guys that they really wanted. They thought he was a great decision maker, accurate from the pocket, throw on the move, excellent pocket movement. So thoughts about that?
Well, not really. I mean, that's kind of how I saw him. I was a little surprised that he was so low in the draft. I saw Gabriel lighting it up for Oregon all year, and they had a little offensive line struggle early, and so his numbers weren't great. And then he got better when they came back healthy, and then it sputtered right there at the end. But he's a very good player, and
He
I
was one of
think,
the only guys who could beat Ohio State last year. He beat
yeah,
Ohio
I
State.
mean he had a really good resume.
Yeah.
Um,
So Kevin Stefanski said that Gabriel wins the way he wants his quarterback to win.
yeah,
That's an interesting comment. So, this is clearly why he was drafted above Shedeur Sanders, and it's pretty clear that Shedeur Sanders was the favorite of the owner, and Dylan Gabriel was the guy that the coaching staff wanted. So
right.
I don't know how they're going to let that flesh out in camp, but we're going to find out. This was interesting. We don't always call out the good guys in sports. We used to call out Tony Bennett for all the great things he would do, but I wanted to call out Dabo Sweeney, who I look at in some ways as the Tony Bennett of football. He donated his entire $5.5 million bonus this year and all of his sponsorship earnings to charities for homeless relief. I thought, what a cool guy for him to do something like that. I mean, all
That's
these
really
guys do
cool.
give charity, but I mean, that's a lot of money that he's
That's a lot
donating.
of money.
And
Yeah,
we just
college coaches don't make all that much money.
and all we do is criticize these guys all the time. We never highlight anybody who does something good. And so I just wanted to call him out.
You rarely hear a lot of accolades for, um,
I think he's a class guy.
college
I
coaches.
despise Clemson, but I like Dabo Sweeney. I just do. I think he's a class guy.
Hmm.
So I just want to call him out there and give him kudos. So international games this year, the most ever. They had 5 last year. They're having 7 this year. 7. So you got Sao Paulo, Dublin, London, another London, another London, Berlin, and then Madrid between your Dolphins and the Commanders. So any
That's a
thoughts?
good game right there.
It is, I know, in Madrid. Any thoughts about this incredible slate of international games this year? And it just gets bigger and bigger. Is this more testament as to NFL being more and more popular around the world?
I think so. I think people an exciting game, a lot of action, hard hitting. Um, I think it's hard to understand, but you can get the basics of it, and it's flashy. Big scores. I think people can kind of get behind it, even if they're not huge fans yet.
I was reading
And then,
that
and then, by the way, we grew up overseas, and if you're living in these countries and you have a chance to go to something like this, you're going to go 100% of the time.
absolutely. What about all these teams' families? Like, think about the Vikings, right? They've decided they're going to stay over there in between these two games. They're playing two in a row, one in Dublin, one in London. And so, if you're a Viking family, wouldn't you just go over there for like 10 days, see both games? I mean, it's just perfect. I know I would if
Yeah,
I was a family member.
yeah, for sure.
Take a
Just
week off
stay
of
over,
work and go over.
make
Yeah.
vacation of it.
Get to see Ireland and England.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about these matchups. I'm excited to see the NFL continues to do this. I know that there's some that grumble about it, especially the coaches and the staff, because it is a big disruption to their normal routines. But I know some of the players really like it, and I know the families definitely like it. So it's going to be fun to watch. Let's talk about that International Club World Cup 2025. This features 32 teams, each team representing a different country or region. Teams are divided into 8 groups, just like the regular World Cup, with the top 2 teams from each group will advance to the knockout stage. So you see in Group A, you've got Brazil, Portugal, Egypt, and Inter Miami from the USA. And I noticed that they put them in that division because it's pretty weak. I mean, they put them in a really weak group. I think they very much want Miami to advance. That's what it seems like.
Seattle Sounders are in with Atletico Madrid
Yeah,
and Paris Saint Germain.
yeah. So PSG,
That's a
Atletico
problem.
Madrid, yeah, and then Seattle Sounders. Then you've got Bayern Munich, Auckland City, New Zealand, Boca Juniors, Argentina, and then Benfica from Portugal. They're pretty good. So that's going to be a pretty good group, Group C. Then you got Brazil, Tunisia, Chelsea from England, and LAFC or America, USA, Mexico. What they're doing is pretty cool. They're doing a play-in game a week before the tournament starts. They're having a play-in game between LAFC and America from Mexico. That's kind of neat.
It
Next
is.
group, you got Argentina, Japan, Monterrey, Mexico, and Italy. So that's Group E. F, you got Brazil, Borussia Dortmund from Germany, South Korea, and South Africa. That's an interesting group. Group G, you got Man City, you got Morocco, UAE, and Juventus from Italy. Of course, they're a big club. And then Group H, of course, Real Madrid, Al Hilal from Saudi Arabia. That's the team that Ronaldo plays for. Pucheka and RB Salzburg from Austria. So they had to get Al Hilal in there because they want Ronaldo to be part of the mix. So any of these groups look tougher than others?
Um,
I think Group B looks the toughest. That's pretty tough.
B looks rough.
Yeah, I think they're tough. Group H is tough. You got you notice that Real Madrid is what Ronaldo used to play for, and now he's playing for Al Hilal. So he's gonna be playing
Yeah.
his old club. That's pretty cool. Um, Manchester City and Juventus. That's a pretty tough group. So this is opening in Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, Saturday, June 14th. And then the final will be in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So thoughts
That's cool.
about this month
It's like
of
a mini
soccer?
World Cup kind of.
Look at the trophy they put together for this. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's huge. So you excited about this?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, this will be a good kind of summer sports filler, I think. We'll definitely be following it. Talk about the PGA Championship in Quail Hollow. Charlotte, Scottie Scheffler wins the title, his third major. He got a score of -11. You can see there he won it kind of going away, although, like I said, he was tied earlier in the day, but he kind of won it going away. DeChambeau was right there again. He keeps coming close, coming in second in all of these tournaments. When they interviewed DeChambeau after, he said, that's 3 tournaments in a row now that I've essentially pissed it away by not being a good putter at the end. So he's got to get that part of his game straightened out. The rest of his game's playing really well. But Scottie Scheffler, number 1 in the world, and he really showed it in this tournament. Thoughts?
Yeah, so it was a really cool tournament. I think Scheffler went into the final day up by 3, which is a nice little lead, but not huge, but a nice lead. And then he proceeded to really have him tie it up and tighten up. He sort of got a little wild in the middle there, and he just kind of fought his way back to some more fundamental strokes, and he really bailed himself out a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So he became a champion because he kind of held serve, and everybody else self-destructed around him.
Well, and he made 3 birdies down the stretch in the
Yeah.
final 9 too. That really helped him.
Yep.
So.
He had an interesting thing happen. The PGA ruled his driver unplayable, so he lost access to his driver right before the tournament started.
Interesting.
And a couple other players did too, including Rory McIlroy.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to use different drivers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I'm sure that's a factor you got to take into account.
No question. Because you've been practicing with your driver, and then all of a sudden you can't use it.
Yeah. And but winning by 5 strokes was the most since 2012. So he clearly handled business when it all came down the stretch, even though he was tied up, into the tournament. This was his third major win.
What do you think of that trophy? That's a pretty sweet trophy for the PGA.
Nice. Did you see him accidentally drop the top off it?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So he now takes over the lead for the FedEx Cup points, which puts him in really great position for things like the Ryder Cup and other things. So really, congratulations to Scottie Scheffler. It was a great tournament right here in Charlotte. Represented the city well, and I was really happy for him. He played great. It was a really great tournament. Everyone played pretty well. So looking at the baseball playoffs, the ACC Championship is kicking off this week. Actually in Durham, North Carolina, Durham Bulls Park. That's a place you and your boys like to go. Mm-hmm. This is on the road to Omaha. There's going to be 6 teams out of the ACC that make it. UVA, our team, is the number 6 seed, so they're right on the bubble. So they're probably going to need to win 1 or 2 rounds to get through to the regionals. Mm-hmm. So they play on Tuesday. In terms of the other big seeds, you've got Georgia Tech, NC State, Florida State, North Carolina. Those are kind of like your big seeds. Then you got Clemson 5 and Virginia 6. So those are your 6 that are potentially going to be going to a regional. We'll just have to see. But proud of Virginia, proud of NC State, and we'll see how this championship comes. So is this an event you'd like to attend sometime in Durham Park?
I love going to it. I've actually been a couple times. I really enjoy the ACC championship there. You go in the middle of the day. There's no traffic. Parking's a breeze, and there's great seats, and you get to cheer on the students of the school that you like. So it's really good baseball.
They've been alternating this championship for ACC in between Durham and Charlotte in the Knight Stadium.
Yeah.
So you think that's a good way to do it? Just kind of alternate it back and forth?
I like it in Durham. I think the Durham Bulls Park is the perfect historical venue for this event. And I think North Carolina is perfectly located centrally so that it's the least amount of travel for everybody. And so I think Durham should get it every year. But Charlotte's good too. It's got a good city to offer. It's got a lot of amenities.
And actually, the Knight Stadium in Uptown is pretty good now too.
Yeah, they're used to hosting, large events, and they have the infrastructure. Knight Stadium's nice,
and there's a good airport in both places. I mean, Raleigh-Durham's the airport. Yeah. Yep. So I'm excited about this. I'm going to be watching this week and this weekend as well, hoping Virginia can win 1 or 2 games at least. get themselves into the semifinals. Looking at the lacrosse scores, you have this epic game between Cornell and Richmond. As you can see, Richmond had a lead going into the fourth quarter. Actually went up 12-9, and then Cornell ends up rattling off 4 straight goals to win the game. It was really kind of epic how they did it in the last 7 minutes. So they take that particular round against Richmond. Really proud of how Richmond played. And then the best lacrosse game I've seen in about 5 years, Syracuse-Princeton, was just a slugfest. Kept changing leads back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Syracuse comes out on top at the end, 19-18. Any thoughts about these two advancing to the Final Four?
Yeah, I think that Syracuse really has caught my attention earlier in the tournament, and proud of Richmond, doing great.
You know what was cool is we called out C.J. Hurst for Cornell in our preseason episode. We also called out Spallina for Syracuse in our preseason episode, and both of them had huge games in these particular rounds. They just both played fantastic. I think Hurst had 4 goals and Spallina had 3 or something, and really good to see kind of these guys who are Tewaaraton finalist type people play that well this round. Pretty cool to watch. So in the other games that happened on Sunday, Notre Dame goes down to Penn State. That was a really good game too. They were actually leading going into the fourth quarter and then just collapsed in the fourth quarter. Penn State really dominated that fourth quarter and showed that they were the better team. But that was still a really good game. And Maryland goes to their 6th straight Final Four by beating Georgetown 9-6. Their defense was just incredible. And their goalie is the best I've seen this year by far. He made so many point-blank stops. It was crazy. So thoughts about Penn State and Maryland advancing?
Well, I mean, I picked Maryland, so that's not a surprise there. And Penn State taking on Notre Dame, I mean, Penn State's really on fire. You don't want to play them. And I kind of felt like Notre Dame was going to have a little let up, but they held their own. They had a really good season, and they just had a tough fourth quarter.
So Notre Dame had won 2 straight national championships, and they got to the Final Four the year before that. Does it feel like the Kavanaugh dynasty is coming to an end?
Probably.
With Chris is graduating?
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, and Penn State, of course, they were just good all year. So this was not a huge
they had a better than expected season for sure.
Yeah. So this is going to be a good Final Four. I'm really excited to watch this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun in Boston. Looking at the women's side of things, Northwestern picks off Pennsylvania. Duke goes down to Florida. What is amazing, Robbie, is the Florida program for the women's side. This is only their 2nd year in Division I. They were a club team 2 years ago. And they come in as the number 4 seed and they knock off Duke.
Crazy.
What an incredible, in their 2nd season of D1. I mean, SEC doesn't really play lacrosse. So
it's amazing.
What do you think about that? This essentially a club team coming in and doing this.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Especially to take on the big boys,
Right.
Or big girls, I should say.
Then the 2 teams that you and I both picked for the final is Boston College took care of Yale and North Carolina took care of Princeton. Both of us called that it was going to be a Boston College, North Carolina final, and they're still on track to do that. If Boston College can take care of Northwestern and North Carolina can beat Florida, which I think they both will. You've got the final that happened last year, Boston College, North Carolina. Any thoughts about these Final Four?
No, it's just really exciting. A lot of the top teams are holding on and really put into their competition.
It's been a pretty predictable bracket for the women,
Yeah,
except for the Duke game.
I think that makes for a really good tournament to have the big big honchos.
Yeah, you have the Tar Heels against Boston College, and may the best women win, right?
Yeah,
that's the way it should be.
That's right.
So we got a subscriber challenge this week. This is a 2-part question. Here we go. Drop us a comment on both. First one is, if you could have one of these quarterbacks for the next 10 years, who would you choose? Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert? Who would you take for the next 10 years? So, Robbie?
Probably Jaden Daniels.
Yes. And reason?
Just the way he processes information is every bit as stellar as his athleticism. He's a good leader. They love him. They'll fight for him. He's just kind of got it. He's got the
Yeah,
calculations.
he does. I
Um,
also would say because he's in his second year, he's on his rookie
he is young.
contract. You can
I
live
would
on a
absolutely have said Joe Burrow, but I'm just kind of scared of the injuries at this point.
Yeah. I think at this point right now, if you're building a franchise and you're a GM, you would take Jaden Daniels out of these four. I agree with that.
Yeah,
Guys,
but
drop us a comment.
only by a tiny bit over Burrow for me,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah, I
think
think
Burrow's still
Burrow.
got a long way to go, and I think he's almost my top favorite quarterback to watch play.
I think Burrow would be my two, and I think CJ Stroud would be my three. I mean, I think he's a really solid quarterback too.
I think I would take Herbert over Stroud.
Maybe. Drop us a comment, guys. Who would you take if you were building a franchise? You're your GM and you're picking somebody for the next 10 years. Rob and I would both take Daniels. So the second part of the question is who will win the trophy in the NHL and NBA playoffs this year? So Robbie, we got to go on the record here, man.
I think I can't escape my wanting the Canes to win, so much so that I gotta throw them out there. If they can't get it done, I think Dallas is going to. But in the NBA, probably OKC.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the same, believe it or not. I'm going to pick the Canes. The way they dismantled the number one seed Capitals, I was really impressed. I think they're going to have a heck of a fight on their hands in this series. I think it may go 7, and I think that in the final it'll probably go 6 or 7 because these are going to be really tough series. But they just seem built to be able to do it this year. I really do. So I like the Canes and I like the OKC Thunder. I think they're clearly the best team this year. So, guys, drop us a comment on what you think about those two. So, before we go to the mailbag, Robbie, let's go back to that game that's in Madrid in November. You think you and I should be there?
I think so. I think that would be so cool.
Wouldn't that be a cool, like 4 or 5 day weekend?
If it lands on a certain, I have to look at the weekend. Is it early November?
It's a Sunday night game. It's going to be the Sunday night game.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. Let's
Who
talk
do you
about
think?
it when I get a calendar in front of me.
Tua against Jaden Daniels. It's
That'd be
pretty good
awesome.
stuff. Yeah, in Madrid. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. Guys, drop us a comment. Should we go? It'd be pretty cool.
I love the
All
idea.
right. I hand it to you, man.
All right. Well, photo is somewhat funny, I guess. A little bit. You caught me a little bit in a funny
It looks like
expression.
you're holding up the baseball player. That's what I liked about it.
Yeah. I was like, look at this guy catch the ball. So there's some news items that I just want to touch on. The Eagles, Nick Sirianni signed an extension. There are no details, but they definitely wanted to send a message that they are pleased with the unorthodox style of having him be the leader. And they think that their assistants feed off him in a positive way. And so they wanted to reward him. So that's interesting, because it really felt like they were trying to steamroll him out of town 2 years ago. And when you go win the Super Bowl, they give you benefit of the doubt and the keys to the city. So there you go.
Right.
So there was an NFL owners meeting, and they discussed a number of items, some of them rule changes, stuff like that. Have you heard about that?
I did hear about that. Yeah, I didn't see the final results from the rule changes, but I know they
So
were
they're
talking
still
about it.
talking about kickoff rules. They wanted to tweak them pretty significantly. They've only had them in place 1 year, and they clearly saw some areas that they needed to make it a little more exciting. They're still talking about the tush push ban. There's a lot of players who are actually saying they think it should be banned. And I do too, actually. My personal commentary. I think the offense being able to push a player from behind and the defense cannot, I think creates an unsafe environment for the defense. So I think you either need to change it to where the defense can also push like a rugby play, or abolish it. No pushing of any players ever, kind of thing.
I'd like to see them be able to push from both sides because I like the rugby play. I really like the maul
Yeah,
feel of it.
yeah.
So,
Either
but
way,
yeah,
the way it
yeah,
is now is unfair towards the offenses. So
no, towards the
um,
defense,
no, it's unfair for the offense. Like they
right?
get to stack up and push, and the defense can't stop them the same way.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's not really fair.
hmm
And then the kickoff rules, tush push ban, and then they're talking about, this is interesting, reseeding the playoffs
hmm
so that the instead of winning your division automatically has you home games, they're going to have um, the home games will be reliant more on your seeding, and your seeding will be more reliant on how well you did throughout the year. So if you are in a weak division and win with 8 wins and 9 losses, you're not going to get a home playoff game. You haven't earned it. So it's gonna be a lot more about having impactful and important games in week 17 and 18, because teams have a lot riding on it, and a home game in the playoffs is huge.
I think they
So
should 100% reseed the NFL playoffs, and they should have reseeded the college playoffs last year. And I think they are talking about that on the college side as well, because there were
yeah,
some unfair matchups that were created last year, giving some teams an easy path to the Final Four.
well, it's funny you say that because I think that the college playoff highlighted the problem, and the NFL saw proactively an opportunity to improve its playoff picture. Um, and they had a lot of meaningless games last year in week 17 and 18. You
You,
had teams that were clearly in the playoffs pull all their starters out and all that. So you wouldn't have that if they had an opportunity to win a home game.
you've had teams that were 7-9 in the past that won their division and hosted a playoff game. That's just
Mhm.
not fair. I think it needs to be reseeded.
Should never happen. If you're
100%.
7 and 9, you should not be hosting a playoff game.
They should make the playoffs. I agree with that, but they should be reseeded.
Yeah. So those
So,
were some of the big NFL owners meeting items that are they're going to have votes on them in the future and stuff. So that's kind of what's being talked about. A lot more rules than that, but uh, talked about the 2-year extension for Derrick Henry. And did you see what Jokic said after the loss this weekend
what did he say?
in the press conference? He said, "In the next couple of days is going to be a lot of beer, probably." So I'm sure the NBA was squirming, but I thought that was pretty funny.
I like Jokic. He's kind of just like a normal guy.
He just
Like
tells
he's
it like it
making.
is. One time they
He's,
asked him, "Is it going to be intimidating playing in?" I can't remember what stadium they were going to, uh, but he plays for Denver, but they were on the road somewhere. I think it was Madison Square Garden or something. And he said, "Have you been to Serbia?" It was Serbia, right?
yeah. Mhm.
"Have you been to Serbia, brother?" And they showed highlights of those games where there's like fires all over the place, and there's just this raucous crowd. It looked like unbelievable. So clearly, he doesn't get intimidated by some people cheering against him. All right, let's get to the mailbag. First one is, this episode made me appreciate the game even more at Blazian Kid. This is talking about our last week when we covered the history of baseball.
That's great. I'm glad that you appreciate the game more and that you gave us that comment, and glad that the episode meant something to you. So thanks.
Yeah, it was fun putting it together, and it was really cool getting the comments and the commentary about how it meant a lot to people and clarified things.
We got a lot of subscribers off that episode, guys, and we have 31,000 views right now off that episode. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, that's really good. Next one. The rules explained here are super helpful for newbies. At Abdelaziz. Abdelaziz. So I'm glad that it was helpful for newbies to baseball.
That's one
pretty,
reason we do it that way. We give the history. We also give the rules. We also give some of the highlights, and we go over the history of the game, because for those folks who don't know the game and trying to learn it, that's one reason we do it. So thanks.
Yeah, we throw in our commentary alongside the history and the, just some of the things that we see, so that people can relate to it a little bit, especially if they're not, experts. They're just trying to learn. That's how they might have ended up on our page in the first place. Next one, great mix of history and current rules. Well done. At Rave Rave.
Oh, thanks, Rave Rave. What a great comment. Yeah, we try to make it a good mix, and hopefully we got it right, and we're going to continue to do so. Our next one coming up very shortly is we're going to be looking at the history of basketball. So look for that one.
Yep. And lastly, this episode answered so many of my questions about baseball. Vicente Hernandez.
Oh, great. Thanks, Vincente. What a great comment. We appreciate it. Keep them coming in.
So that was it for the mailbag this week.
That's awesome. So, Robbie, what are you looking forward to the most, man? Coming up here, we got NHL, NBA playoffs starting tomorrow. We got all the lacrosse games this weekend. We got this big soccer tournament coming up. You got baseball in full swing. We got Omaha coming up soon.
I mean, all of it. I think NHL, they got the 4 best teams in hockey. And I just feel like it's the coolest playoffs there is besides March Madness. And
would it shock you if both semifinals and the finals are all 7-game series? Would that shock you?
well, it never works out quite like that, but it wouldn't shock me, no, because I think these 4 teams deserve each other. Like, it's going to be a brawl. It's going to be
Okay.
such good hockey. It might even be a blowout somewhere, and that's unpredictable, but it should be incredible series on both sides. And if it's not, then
Whoever
it's disappointing, because you don't have a weak link going up against a monster. You have 4 monsters ready to go, and they're all, dealing with injuries at this time of year, but none of them have their stars out or anything. For the most part, there's some healthy players out there, and even the Carolina Hurricanes goalie is healthy, and he's had problems the last few years. So with
he's played
injuries
really
from
well
time.
in these playoffs, though. Anderson's played really well. I will say, whoever holds the Stanley Cup up this year is going to have earned it. They're going to have gone
Oh
through a
yeah,
tremendous
oh
gauntlet.
yeah, for sure.
So
I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
And I'm looking forward to that OKC Timberwolves series. I think that'll be the better
Yeah, I
series.
agree.
And it's going to be just must-see TV. These are the 2 up-and-coming teams. We've been watching these teams for 2 or 3 years now. Just build and build through the draft, getting the young guys. And now all of a sudden, these 2 teams that have been drafting high for 5 seasons are now the 2 best teams. And they're not just filled with stars, although they have stars. They are complete rosters. And really, the Pacers are too. I mean, I underestimated them this year, and their coaching staff and their front office. They have a complete team as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. And the soccer sounds fun, and the Omaha, setting up Omaha, all the league championships, baseball. I mean, just so
There's
much
going to
good
be
stuff.
things that roll over the next 2 months that continue to fill those gaps. Where we don't have football, they're going to continue to fill the gaps. There can be something good coming. So that's really going to be
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. It's gonna be a better summer than normal for sports.
No doubt. There's going to be more NFL offseason stuff happening. Aaron Rodgers is going to have to make his decision pretty soon. So I think you called that you didn't. I think you called that you weren't sure he was going to play again this year or maybe ever. And I'm kind of convinced that he's going to play this season, but he's not going to be in training camp. I think he's going to try to.
I think he's gonna sign with the Saints very soon. That's
the
my
Saints.
prediction. Yeah. That's my
Not the
prediction.
Steelers.
Nope, I think he's gonna be with the Saints.
Okay.
I think it
I
makes
think
the most sense.
I think Saints and Steelers may be the only two teams that need him. So that would
Think
make some
about it.
sense.
Think about the Saints division. You're not scared of any of those teams, and so it gives you a good chance of going deep in the playoffs. They have a good roster. They desperately need a quarterback.
Well, I mean, Baker
New
Mayfield's
Orleans
the
is
best
an
quarterback
interesting
in that
city.
division.
You know, it's quirky like he is.
Baker's the best quarterback in that division. So you're right. I mean, there's an opportunity in the South for sure.
Yeah, he would clearly be the best quarterback in that division if he goes in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So New Orleans is a cool city. You know, it's different.
That's right.
It's unique. We love going there. Strange.
Well, guys,
Place.
thank you so much for joining tonight. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you and your friends and family have a fantastic Memorial Day. We're going to our beach house, Rob and I and our family, and we're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Hope you do too. And again, just remember the reason for Memorial Day. Remember those who gave service, and thank a veteran. Really do that. It's really a good thing to do. It'll make you feel better, and definitely makes them feel better. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's really meant to remember those who've fallen, and it's a somber, beautiful weekend. Get together with your family, be thankful for everything around you, and it's a good time to check out some good sports, and and we're gonna play some beach bocce. You know,
Mm-hmm. Can't
get
wait.
the get the competitive juices flowing. So,
And cornhole. Play some cornhole.
oh yeah,
Day at the beach.
should be fun.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you next time on the Sports Guys. Take care.
Take it. See you.